Hey, what's up? This is Alec Kermit, and today I'm going to be weighing in on the controversial ModRetro Chromatic handheld gaming device coming out this holiday season 2024. So, what is the Chromatic? Well, it's an FPGA handheld device that mimics the original Game Boy Color. The hardware in this thing, the chips, are so closely identical to the original Game Boy Color that even original cartridges don't know the difference. And the gameplay experience is a step above even software emulation you might get on your PC or Mac. Now, the Chromatic is actually what initially got me interested in going back and looking at Game Boy and Game Boy Color games again just recently. So I've been playing some of the games from my childhood as well as looking into new experiences for the handheld. Now, once I did my own research, I came to the conclusion that the Chromatic was not for me as much as I liked it, and I still do like it a lot. Now, I think most people's problem with this device is the price tag. Immediately, $200 sticks out like a sore thumb, and this is because there are much cheaper options on the market, namely the FPGBC, which is a made in China device that you build yourself, customize the look of, and it has just about all the features you would ever want for playing Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, and this costs $83. Now, I would argue that the Chromatic is not actually overpriced, but that doesn't mean that I think it's a good purchase. So let me explain. So, right off the bat, we can actually knock $30 off the $200 price tag because the Chromatic is bundled with a brand new, officially licensed version of Tetris. So, really, the price of the Chromatic is more like $170. Also, the materials and features of the Chromatic, I think, are well worth the money. It's just that I think the feature list is not as valuable as even the feature list of the FPGBC. So, with the Chromatic, you're getting a nearly indestructible device. It has a magnesium alloy shell, a sapphire laminated screen. The actual screen on this thing is purpose built for the Chromatic. It is a one-to-one representation of the original Game Boy Color screen, just backlit and with nicer colors. It's a very nice IPS display. It even has the natural pixelated grid matrix of the original Game Boy Color. So something like the FPGBC, this is just a repurposed LCD screen from like a BlackBerry or something like that. This on the Chromatic is actually made for the Chromatic to be as accurate as possible to the original experience, but just updated for modern times. The Chromatic also has injection molded buttons, whatever that means. It's got a working IR signaler, whereas on something like the FPGBC, this is just for looks. The Chromatic also has, get this, lagless video output, so you can actually stream or record directly from the Chromatic to your PC or Mac. So in reality, there really isn't anything quite like the Chromatic on the market. This is a billionaire's passion project to make the ultimate Game Boy, the one that he's always wanted. And while he thinks everyone is going to buy this thing up, I would disagree because while the Chromatic's feature list is quite valuable, I think it pales in comparison to even the half the price FPGBC. So let me explain. The FPGBC has a 50% larger screen than the Chromatic. You can choose to play full screen or at the original aspect ratio. You can play with the grid lines for the pixelated look if you want to, or turn them off for a more modern experience. Whereas on the Chromatic, everything is very much baked in and not optional. The Chromatic may have an IR signaler, but the FPGBC has the ability to speed up or slow down the gameplay. And while the Chromatic has video output, the FPGBC has a rechargeable battery pack via USB C, whereas the Chromatic relies on three AA batteries. Now, they will be releasing a battery pack for the Chromatic, but you'll have to pay extra for it. I would wager to guess that even if these two devices were the exact same price, most people would choose the FPGBC. To go further, you could purchase this plus something called the GB operator, which is essentially a USB C plug in device for your PC or Mac that allows you to play Game Boy through Game Boy Advance on your computer in a very streamlined manner where you just plug the cartridge in and push play, and it has a very nice emulator built in with a ton of settings. You can even dump the games, dump your saves, and transfer saves to and from playing on the computer and playing on your handheld very seamlessly. And having the GB operator and the FPGBC would total out to be about 130, 140 bucks. And between those two devices, you're covering all the bases and paying less money. You could also compare the Chromatic to the Analog Pocket, which goes for about 220 bucks. Now this thing will play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and a host of other systems even off of an SD card and on a nice big screen with very high quality materials as well. Now, while it may seem like I'm being very negative on Mod Retro, I'm actually a fan of their company. Even though the Chromatic is not for me personally, I'm very excited about them as a games publisher. If we go to their games section, you can see that they are actually publishing brand new retro games. So, this company, which is very well funded and well advertised, has the ability to incentivize brand new games for the 8 bit handheld. And some of these I'm actually very excited about, such as Dragon M, which is an RPG, the Ultimate Edition of Toki Tori, which is one of the better Game Boy Color games out there. This game called Chanty, which is kind of like a portable version of Rock Band built inside of a pirate RPG. And I'm really excited to see what games come out for it next. And I will be buying a few of these this holiday season. So, Mod Retro is kind of a mixed bag for me. I don't think their device is really going to do well on the market, but I think as a publisher, they could be something really special. So, what are your opinions on this whole Mod Retro Chromatic thing? Tell me in the comments, and I'll be sure to look and respond as appropriate. Thank you so much for watching.